blasters on full.
What's up guys, today we're going to check out the Figma Hulk figure, and this is number 271 in the Figma line. And as always, we'll start off by taking a quick look at the packaging. And Figma usually has the same style. They have the big window up front here, and on the bottom you have the Figma logo and the number of the figure. You also have some pictures of the figure on the sides of the box as well as the back. You have a few different poses, and you also have some close-ups of the head. You also have some nice graphics on the top of the box with all the logos, a picture of the figure, as well as the figure information. One of the things I'd like to point out real quick is the quality of plastic that Figma uses for the insert here. It's a thicker, more pliable plastic than you find on most of the action figures, and I just thought that was worthy of note. And also you can see the quality in packaging. You have these little bubble wrap pads here that go where the shoulders go, so the figure sits in there nice and snug. Another interesting little thing that Figma does is they have these perforated sections that rip out of the box insert. And you can fold that up and put it on their stand, the DI stage stand, and it really just kind of covers it up and makes it a little bit more customized for the actual figure you're displaying. They also include this instruction manual, thoughtfully made in English and Japanese, which is fairly helpful, although you really don't need it with this figure. It's not too complicated. You also get this little clear Ziploc baggie for the accessories, which is always a nice inclusion. And onto the accessories, you get a nice stand with this figure, and it has a peg on the end, so it fits in the back of the Hulk. And you do get two pairs of hands with this figure. You get these fists here, and you can see they do have a little hole that goes through the center. I'm not really sure what that's for, if that's just a molding thing or if it's meant to hold something, but there's really nothing else included for them to hold. But they are well sculpted. You have some nice wrinkles on the palm here. They also sculpted some nice veins on the top of the hands here, and the paint on them is really nice. Some great shading all throughout the hands. And they even included little L and R here in case you forget which is left and right. You also get a pair of open hands, and the only issue with these is you can see this mold line on the bottom of the palms, and it kind of makes it look like stitches where the wrinkles in the palms are. Otherwise, though, everything is really well sculpted, really nicely painted, great shading all throughout, and they also have the left and right marks in here, just in case you forget. And you also get this tool for moving the eyes, which is a fairly nice feature on this figure. You just have to split the head apart here. You can see the line there. It comes apart fairly easily. Although it isn't loose in there, it is fairly sturdy. And you just find the little pegs for the eyes, and you just get the tool on them, and you can move them around any way you want. Obviously, just make sure you check so that it's not all googly-eyed when you're done. So now we'll take a look at the figure itself, and we will start off with the sculpt and paint, and Figma did an excellent job with this figure. And I especially like the paint app they have on this figure. It's a matte paint all over this figure with excellent shading all throughout. And it really does an excellent job of really making those muscles stand out. Figma also did a really good job with the sculpt on this thing. The proportions are great. He's nice and beefy. The head sculpt looks really good. Great details, good expression. And the paint on the head is also really nice. There's no issues with that. The muscles all throughout this figure look great. It's asymmetrical. It's not very symmetrical, which is good. Very realistic. I like the pants they chose as well, which was the pants from the first Avengers movie. So they're a lot more comic-like than the second one with his weird spandex pants. And again, just a great job, great details all throughout this thing, great proportions. I really love the sculpt and paint on this figure. So now take a look at the articulation on the figure, and one of the things to note right away is that Figma does a pretty good job of hiding the joints. They do blend in fairly well with the rest of the figure. So now check out the head joint, and you can move him down about that far, and he looks up about that high. You can pull the head a little bit out of the socket to get a few extra degrees of motion, but you're not going to get a lot. You can look left and right a decent amount, but unfortunately you do not have any pivot on the head. You can get some pretty good movement out of the shoulders. You can get them just a little bit higher than straight, which is pretty much perfect. You also have full rotation at the shoulder here, and you can actually pull the whole shoulder out of the joint here. I'll just pull it out. You can do this pretty much with all the joints, but you can kind of see exactly what kind of joint you're getting there. And all these joints do pull out and push in very smoothly, and they're fairly sturdy in there. The only joint I had an issue with was the right leg, this one here. This one would keep popping out on me when I extended the leg a little too far. But other than that, everything was very smooth and very sturdy. And this figure has single jointed elbows. You can get just over 90 degrees on the bend. Not a whole lot, but it's still a pretty good bend. And you do have full rotation at the elbow as well. The wrists are ball joints, and the joint itself is actually inside the forearm, and then there's a peg that pops out that the hand attaches to, as you can see here. And while there's no diaphragm joint, you do get a pretty good waist joint on here. You can't really move them back too far. You can get a little bit, but you get a really nice bend forward. You also have some really nice side pivot on here. And you do have pretty much full rotation, but you are a little bit hindered by the pants. They are fairly flexible, so you can get some good movement on it, but if you move it too far, you'll probably get some rubbing as well on that nice matte finish. And you do have some pretty good hip joints on this figure. You can get almost a full split, but you can see I had to be a little careful there because the leg does have a tendency to pop off on the right side. You also have a lot of rotation on the hip itself, which is nice. Single jointed knees, but thanks to the cutout in the back of the shorts, you do have quite a bend on there, well over 90 degrees. You do have a slight bit of rotation at the knee itself. This figure does have some really nice ankle joints. You can really go pretty far down with that foot. You could also get it really high up. It is a fairly exposed joint, but it blends in fairly well, so there's really not too much of an issue. You also have a really great pivot going left and right on the ankle here, which is really nice. And you also have articulated toes. They don't go down too far, but they go up pretty nice amount. You're probably looking around 45 degrees or so. So now check out the size and scale of the figure. And the angle of this shot is a little off. He's actually 7 3/4 of an inch tall. And here he is next to the Marvel Legends Age of Ultron Hulk. And the Marvel Legends is about a ½ an inch taller, although I think the Figma is far better proportioned. It also looks and feels better, but it's also a much more expensive figure, so you get what you pay for. And as far as actual scale goes, while he does seem a little bit small, he's actually pretty spot on for scale. If you're going by the Avengers movie, I think Hulk is 8 foot in that, so he should be 8 inches tall. But if you look at the comics, Hulk varies, and he's usually somewhere around 7 to 8 feet, so he kind of fits in that scale. So overall, I think Figma did an excellent job with this figure. I am super happy with it. The only issue I had with the entire figure was the right leg did have a tendency to pop off when I really extended that leg up pretty high. Paint was perfect. Love the matte finish on there. I really love the shading they threw in. Also really like the sculpt. Very well proportioned. No issues whatsoever. Great head sculpt. Articulation was good. Could have been a little bit better here and there, but I had no problems getting in great dynamic poses. Accessories, maybe could have used an extra set of hands, but it's the Hulk, so you're not expecting a lot, but you do get a stand with it, which you really don't need because it balances quite well. And in my opinion, this is the best Hulk figure in this scale. Truth be told, I have not had the figure arts in my hand, but judging on the pictures I saw and the reviews I read, I think the Figma trumps it, and by a large margin. So I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thanks for watching, and as always, subscribe for more.